It's going to be Westin Wilson versus Jean Silva. And this is going to be another um, intriguing matchup because Silva is the biggest favorite on the card. Just to give you guys a little bit spoiler alert of the odds. So Weston Wilson, he's 16-8. He is 3-2 in his last five. He's coming off of that uh, beating KO loss against Joanderson Brito. He is 34 years old. He's fighting against Jean Silva, 11-2. He's 5-0 in his last five. He's coming off of that Dana White Contender Series victory, via decision. He's going to be the younger fighter here at 27 and just the shorter and kind of has a 4-inch reach disadvantage as well, as you guys can see there. The odds for this fight, though, let me just tell you, the odds are really, really wide for this fight. John Silva now is even a minus 900. I think that it's not loading up right now, but I believe that he opened up at like a minus 350 or something like that when I first saw it. Yeah, he opened up at minus 350, and now he's a minus 900. So people have just been hammering this guy, and I don't blame them really. So Gerard, I'll let you go ahead and break down this fight before I kind of interject. What do you think about this fight between Wilson and Silva here?
Yeah. So Jean Silva, he probably should win. I mean, but for me personally, this is like unbettable for me. So from just looking from his last fight, he did look like he was like starting pretty slow in that fight, and he wasn't as aggressive or pressuring too hard that compared to what we saw from Joe Anderson Brito against Weston Wilson. So we might not see that early on, which is what I'm worried about. And John Silva, he might be kind of overrated, maybe overly confident. I'm not so sure how quality of his wins are so far. Um, and from his last fight, I mean, he looked like he might get too patient when he can just easily steamroll if he decides to be aggressive early. And for Weston Wilson, he has the length advantage. He has his karate stance or style can maybe frustrate John Silva early on. Um, and if Weston Wilson can make it uneventful and make it a slow fight to start, he might have a chance here. Um, but yeah, if Weston Wilson can keep Silva out of range for most of the fight and make it slow, do his Trey Ogden impression early on in this fight, get Silva out of rhythm, there I could see a path for an upset for Weston here. And also, which is why I'm just staying away from this fight. And I don't know, maybe if Josh Van wins early on this card, maybe I'll sprinkle a little bit on Weston Wilson just for giggles. But yeah, I'm staying away, but John Silva should win here.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, Silva, he's actually, I think, a pretty decent striker at the UFC level. I think he is above average. He has good power, pressures forward pretty well, keeps coming at you. I also think that he's pretty accurate with his shots and really quick with his kicks as well. He also has good movement and is light on his feet. The only hesitancy that I have about his movement, his stance, is that he does keep his hands low from time to time. He does fight with a pretty good guard, but sometimes he just drops his hands if he kind of wants to be a little bit more aggressive. He does have two sub wins, both for them by a pretty quick guillotine. But aside from those quick subs, he hasn't really shown too much in terms of grappling. But he does have that in his back pocket if needed. I mean, he's fighting against a guy, Weston Wilson, pretty tall featherweight with a long frame and reach. I think that Wilson, unfortunately, is a below average striker, though. He likes to use those straight shots and kind of blitz his opponents. I believe he trains out of Wonder Boy's camp in South Carolina. So he kind of fights like Wonder Boy, light in his footwork, karate kind of style with a side to side movement. But unfortunately, he just does not have the skills of a Wonder Boy. Keeps his hands pretty low. the way he fights, it just seems like a guy that is begging to get KO'd. Unfortunately, he's tall, long, hands low, leaves his chin up way too much. So I think that's where his detriment's going to come from in this fight. Now, surprisingly, he has pretty good jiu-jitsu skills. I think he's pretty active in scrambles and off his back. He uses his frame and length well, really goes for the subs when he is in grappling exchanges, able to cinch up those chokes with his long arms. So he does have 16 wins in his career, and 11 of them are by submission. So he does know how to choke people. But he also just does not have good wrestling and takedowns to get the fight to the ground. So I think that he's going to more so wait and is going to be more opportune with those subs. But the most likely outcome for this fight that I see happening is Silva is just going to sprawl and brawl his way to a decision victory, or more likely, most likely a KO, in my opinion. So Silva by KO, I think that's what's going to happen. I agree with you that this is minus 900. I mean, that's pretty steep. Like, I was looking at the odds yesterday, it was only like minus 800. Even then, I was like, man, this is pretty high for a guy like John Silva, who might not be like too high level in the UFC, right? But in this matchup, I think that he's gonna probably look high level. So that's gonna be my pick, but I'm not playing it. I mean, the once you start getting to like minus 900, 800, it just adds less juice on your play, and sometimes the juice is not worth the squeeze in that sense. So I'm probably going to stay away from this and just wait till Wilson gets knocked out and move on to the next fight.
unless it's Bo Nickel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with Bo Nickel, right? Because at least he has shown that he has won in the UFC. John Silva, I mean, this is going to be his UFC debut, right? So it's
Yeah,
tough, man. It's tough. And Bo Nickel obviously has a lot more credentials. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Yeah, but yeah, I'm staying away from this and just kind of waiting for it to end, probably.